Fish and Wildlife UK Basketball Postgame Show on ESPN 680 and 105.7. Coverage of Wildcats basketball is also presented by Ale 81, Kentucky's original ginger soft drink since 1926. Kelly, Kentucky, the employment solution expert. KellyJobs.com. UPS Jobs. Apply today at UPSJobsKY.com. Cox's Spirit Shop and Evergreen Liquors. Louisville's neighborhood liquor store. Genesis Diamonds, the official jeweler of the Kentucky Wildcats. BJ Heating and Cooling. Call the experts you can trust. BJHeatCool.com. Sonatrol Security, the #1 rated security company in Louisville. SonatrolKY.com. And Kroger, fresh for everyone. Now, here are your hosts, Mike Gandolfo, Jason Ence, and Zach Cantrell.
All right, hello, Cats fans. Mike Gandolfo here with Jason Ence and Big Z, Zach Cantrell. That's the real Big Z. We've got him here, BBZ, that is. Look, I'm loving it, Ence, because in our little text thread, Zach is starting to say we as a Kentucky fan. Like we have completely shifted him. It is fantastic, and I'm loving it. We want you guys to join the conversation. 502-267-9680. Text line is up as well. 502 UPS Jobs Textline. I guess I got to get that in there, right? 502-437-9680. We're also streaming on YouTube and Facebook. I'm in another hotel room, but that's okay, man. We're getting it done. So make sure that you guys are interacting with us. We want to hear all the stuff. Obviously, a great win for the Cats. They finished the regular season. Both these teams on pretty big, nice win streaks. Tennessee had won 7 games in a row. This is obviously a hostile environment. The intensity in the first half was off the charts. I know both teams struggled a little bit to score. Tennessee struggled a whole lot to score. But then you saw the second half, and it wasn't perfect. I'm not going to sit here and say it was perfect or whatever else. I guess most people think I'm negative all the time, but Kentucky really kind of came out and really established dominance in that second half, even though the second half got off to a rough start. And I really feel like it kind of started with, Justin Edwards made this move and made like a baseline mid-range jump shot that I was like, man, that's an NBA play right there. And then it just felt like after that, they really took control of this game until the last minute. And we can talk about that because that's a whole different story right there because, man, did they regress in that last minute. And going into tournament play, that's got to be a concern along with the defense. You know, Tennessee misses a ton of open shots, but there's got to be a little bit of concern about. We've seen this before. Even though Kentucky wins, they won against Mississippi State. They make the last minute a little bit more of an adventure than it needs to be. So, Ence, what do you got going on?
Well, my bank account went up quite a bit thanks to the last couple minutes there. Yeah, I mean, there are so many positives to take away from this game. And then you go back and watch that last minute. And this team has so much potential. And we've seen it, not just in this game, but in the fact that they've gone on the road, they've played well. They went to Auburn, which was a really hostile environment, and they won there. They go to Tennessee on senior day, and they open as 9.5-point underdogs. And they win outright, which, by the way, this is now, I believe, the 3rd time in a row that they've gone on the road as underdogs and won outright, which, again, speaks to something you mentioned the other day about, this team seems to almost play better away from Rupp than they do at Rupp at times. But this game had a tournament feel to it. And this game reminded me at times in the second half of the UK game against UCLA, where it was De'Aaron Fox just going at the rim at one end, and I can't remember who it was for UCLA, just attacking at the other end, and they just kept going back and forth and trading punches. And that's what you had in the second half with Dalton Connect and Antonio Reeves. And then it was Dalton Connect and Reed Shepherd. Yeah. And then it was Dalton Connect and Rob Dillingham. And it was just back and forth. One guy for UK during whatever stretch would take over, and it was like a heavyweight fight. And it looked like UK was going to easily win on the cards. They were going to get a knockout win. And then the last minute happens. And this is not the first time that Kentucky has just melted against intense full court pressure. And the energy, the effort, the fight, the just relentless defense that you saw from Tennessee in the final minute, that's what you're going to see in the NCAA tournament. That's what you're going to see from teams that know, some players know, hey, my career might be over in 5 minutes. That's what you're going to get from players who know if they don't make something happen like Tennessee nearly did, our season's over. And John Calipari's got to get them in the gym this week and work 100% focus on how to break down and how to deal with a full court press. Because we have too many good athletes, we have too many good players, passers, etc., to continue to just fall apart like this. This should have been look, don't let anybody out there say, oh, you're being negative about the win. It was a great win, but it should have been a double-digit win. It should have been a win that we started post-game show 5 minutes earlier than we did. I'm worried about things like that costing us in the tournament because this team once again showed that they can fight with anybody. They can compete with anybody, and they can beat anybody, regardless of the environment, regardless of where they're playing. And I want to see this team make a run to the Final Four. You know, we were talking in the text thread, us 3 UK fans, you, me, Mike, and Big Z.
BBZ.
And you said earlier, you go, damn it, I'm starting to buy back in again. I'm bought in. This team can make a run, and I don't even know that we've mentioned it yet. We don't have to play on Thursday now.
Right.
That's the biggest thing from this. We don't have to play Thursday. It's a 3-day run, SEC tournament. Go out and win the damn thing. You know, this win might sneak us onto the 3-seed line. You know, you win the SEC tournament, you're solidly on the 3-seed line. You're potentially, depending on how other teams might lose in their first game. You have a chance to sneak up to a 2-seed. With everything that's gone wrong this season, you can end it on a very positive note and get into the NCAA tournament as a 3 or a 2, win the SEC tournament, make a run, because this team is built. These guards were able to do things today that we haven't had guards be able to do the last couple of years, which was be able to close out games. Because as insane as Dalton Connect was in that second half, they could never fully catch up to UK. And that's the difference. Kentucky had guards who could close out a game. Reed Shepherd hitting a 3-pointer with less than a second left on the shot clock, hitting multiple threes in transition, hitting threes with guys in his grill. We have guys that can close a game out. We've got to make sure that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot in the process. But I'm pumped. I'm excited. And hey, Rocky Top, sit down, shut up with your ugly ass orange uniforms, your stupid fight song. There's nothing better than beating Tennessee, except beating Tennessee at their place.
So a couple things just on what you just, a little bit of reaction. 2-seed, I think, is a little bit of a stretch, but at the same time, you look at Tennessee's going to be on that 2 line, and North Carolina's going to be on that 2 line, and Kentucky got decisive wins over both of them.
And you beat Tennessee at their place. You beat Auburn at their place. I think those road wins are going. Look, it's easy for a team to beat a good team at home. For them to go on the road and do what they've done, I think is going to give them a little bit of an edge. Again, they've got to win the SEC tournament, and they've got to hope some other teams lose. Like if Tennessee loses in their first game on Friday.
Well, Marquette's losing right now to Xavier. And then they still got to go to the Big East. The 2-seed
is there.
Yeah.
The 2-seed is there. Now, that's not a guarantee of anything, as we know firsthand, from a couple years ago, but 2-seed is better than a 3-seed, and a 3-seed is definitely better than a 4-seed, and it's a lot better than the 8, 9, 10 seed that we were talking about a month ago.
And I don't know if it really matters too much to me whether it's a 2 or 3, but it definitely matters if you can get off that 4 line. If you can get into a 3-seed, a 3-seed and a 2-seed are basically the same because they got to go through each other. So, like, I'm with you, man. If we can get into that 3-seed line, if we can get to the finals of the SEC tournament and get in that 3-seed, it's a big deal. But the main difference for me right now is Justin Edwards. That dude, I know I mentioned his shot, 37 minutes tonight for Justin Edwards, and just getting it done. And he's become such a guy that I can't even believe that I'm saying this, knowing exactly how the season started. But this is a guy that Kentucky is starting to be able to depend on for what he's able to go out there and do. He has a plus-minus of 13, which is the only plus-minus in double digits. And when we have a unhealthy Trey Mitchell, which there's no question the dude is not right, and to the point where, he actually had the worst plus-minus. He's -9 when he's on the floor, and I think that's been a trend that we've seen the last couple games. I know it was like that the last game. Like Justin Edwards picking it up right now is such a blessing with Trey Mitchell not being healthy. And that -9 for Trey Mitchell is in 8 minutes of play. So, and then we haven't also mentioned, even though it was extremely physical in the first half, and the guy didn't even freaking take a shot, but Onyenzo basically saying, like, you all want to come in here and be physical with us? This is my lane, and I'm locking this down as much as I possibly can. And we got beat on some rotations and stuff like that, and Tennessee got some looks at the basket. But for the most point, I mean, Tennessee only has very little going in that first half because Onyenzo was able to protect the rim, have some amazing blocks, and really, I just thought set the tone that Kentucky was ready to fight, and his teammates responded and fought with him, which I thought was fantastic. All right, do we want to go ahead and go to the phone lines?
Well, we need to get the thoughts of the third UK fan.
Oh, that's right, BBZ. Who's now saying we in text when talking about Kentucky
We
fans.
are saying we now.
Yes, I love it.
We.
No, but you are a true UK fan, though, by the way, because you root for Ohio State in football and Kentucky in basketball.
I will never.
I was going to say that
Cincinnati. You're a true Cincinnati area UK fan.
There you go. I'm never.
I was going to say that makes me the
Ohio
perfect UK fan. No, I mean, but look, outside of the last minute, this was a wire-to-wire, pretty much a dominant performance. And when you look at how the guards played in particular, Shepard, Dillingham, Reeves, look, Reeves over 19.5 was free money. You know what Shepard's going to bring to the table. And I said this in the chat. Every time Reed shoots, I just have the most confidence that it's going to go in. I've never seen him shoot and think that's not going in. And that's one of the best things you can have about a player. Onyenso had a great first half, really didn't play a whole lot in the second half. I was a little concerned about their defensive breakdown, especially in the last minute. Just you got to handle a press, man. You got to be able to handle the press. You got to get over half court because all you got to do is get over half court. They're going to foul you. You're a good free throw shooting team, and you're going to win the game. So they've got to be able to get that under control. But you beat a top 4 team on the road. I don't care how you do it. Don't care what the margin is. It's a legitimate win. And now everything's set up for them. They're going to be a 2 seed in the SEC tournament. There's no reason to expect that they won't get to the finals now. A 2 seed's a possibility. I think the 3 seed's probably the most likely scenario for this team. But look, this is another game that reminds everybody this on any given day can play with anybody in college basketball. When you beat them on the road, you beat Tennessee on the road, despite Dalton Connect going crazy and having 34, 36 points, that's still a legitimate performance. That's still a legitimate win. And I mean, everything we've said about this team all year, I think kind of came into fruition in a 40-minute stretch here today. And this is who this team is. And I think it's a heart attack inducing special, but you know what? You can survive it if you win.
And of course, that also really, when you consider that a couple games ago, we had 7 guys in double figures. They ended up with 4 guys in double figures, but I'm not sure if I really want to count Robs. They really had 3 dudes that were scoring the basketball tonight, and that was it. And for them to go out there and get it done and basically win a different way, they won a different way than what they've been able to win this year on the road against a top 5 opponent, and that's a huge win for them. Are we guaranteed the 2 spot now?
Yes, it was essentially because of results earlier in the day.
Yeah.
It was lose and you're the 5, win and you're the 2.
So that means you'll have the if I'm not mistaken, that's like the prime time game on Friday nights, like the 7:30 start or the 7 o'clock.
No, I think the 1 seed gets that, don't they?
Because I feel like every single time that the catch with the 1, well, then that would mean,
or is it the 1? No, that's right. The 1's the earliest game. That's right.
So the 2 is the 2. Then the 2. Yeah.
Give me a second and I'll find out.
Yeah. All right. So we'll figure out all that. We'll talk about the SEC play. We'll talk about how the SEC looks going into the NCAA tournament. We can talk about all that stuff. Anything you guys want to talk about. Again, the phone number is 502.
Kentucky plays at 7 o'clock. They'll play at 7 on Friday. Tennessee will play at noon.
Okay.
That sucks for Big Rig. No post game for you, buddy boy.
Call in 502-267-9680. UPS Jobs Textline 502-437-9680. And of course, I'm taking comments online on the Facebook feed or on YouTube. We're going to go to the phone lines now. We've got Joe on the line. Joe, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you all. Yes, thank you all. 2 quick comments. First comment, we obviously got to get a lot better in the last 2 minutes of our head coach getting a timeout when we can't get the ball over the half court line. For the love of God, as loud as he is, you cannot tell me he cannot get a timeout called. But he didn't get a call, so we get another 10-second call. So I guess.
Well, I think the players have to call the timeout, if I'm not mistaken, Mike.
I do. They've changed that rule back and forth so many times, but I do believe right now the player does have to call a timeout.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. I apologize on that. And secondly, we beat the Grand Hill curse. For the love of God, when I turn the game on and I see Rafferty and I see Iron Eagle, then I see somebody in the middle that looks like Grand Hill, I'm saying, why is he at an SEC game? Why did he at North Carolina and watching Duke and Carolina play tonight? We beat his jinx on that one play at half court. We had Bradshaw and somebody else double teaming the Great White Hope, and the ball goes out of bounds, and he walked with the ball. Everybody who ever played basketball or ever held a basketball knows the kid walked. But you know what Grand Hill said? Oh, he knocked it off Bradshaw, so that should be Tennessee's basketball. This is an all-pro, all-Mr. Everything commentator, and I just laughed. So I said, just go back to North Carolina, Grand Hill. You didn't put the jinx on us. We got the victory. Just go back to Duke land and see if you can give some therapy to some of those Duke fans. Lord knows they need it. Thanks a lot, gentlemen.
All right, there's Joe. Thanks for calling in, Joe.
So I'm seeing conflicting stuff because now Kyle Tucker is saying that there's a possibility if Auburn wins tonight, UK's the 2 seed. If Auburn loses, UK's the 3 seed. No matter what, they're guaranteed the double bye. But I'm trying to find out because I was under the assumption based on some things I saw before the game that the scenarios had fallen to where we were guaranteed. There was a flow chart I saw yesterday that was literally like 50 different scenarios.
Well, because everybody ended up 13-5. You know, so four losses wins the SEC. I know we had that conversation early in conference play. How many losses were going to win the SEC? We'll have to go, Zach. I might have to have you go back and find that tape and see how close we were. But then the log jam with everybody with 5 losses. So
yeah, there was the only way we could finish outside the top 4 was if we didn't win and both Alabama and Auburn won today.
So Auburn's playing Georgia,
which
so
did not
I don't
happen.
know why Georgia beating Auburn would have any effect of anything. So, and then South Carolina already took care of Mississippi State in overtime. And Florida went down to Vanderbilt. Florida lost to Vanderbilt today. Holy cow. I didn't see that score. I did watch a little bit of that Arkansas-Alabama finish. And I was shocked about that one. Arkansas gave Alabama everything they wanted. Probably should have won that game. So it was kind of crazy finish on that one as well. Are we going to go back to the phone lines? Steve is on the line.
How you doing, gentlemen?
Steve, we're doing great, man.
Yeah, I tell you what, I've been saying it all year. Look, if Cal doesn't get this team to the Final Four, we should find some way to get rid of him. This, in my opinion, this is the most talented Kentucky team of all time. And the 1996 team won the national championship the day before my 21st birthday. And I think this team, overall talent, is actually more talented. This is the most talented Kentucky team I've seen in 40 years of watching basketball. And we got them killers coming out. We got guys that are cutthroat. I mean, unshakable, nasty dudes. Dudes on the court that you do not want to go against. Reed Shepherd with the pull-ups. You got Edwards, a guy who didn't look like he could make a three-pointer the first couple months of the season, just draining it in the guys' faces. The talent is there. Right now we need the coaching. And look, the thing that matters is our coach needs to tell these guys after this game, hey, we had this game won. Did you see how quick they came back on us? That's what the NCAA tournament's like. You've got to get better. We shouldn't be thinking this was good enough. We should be thinking these guys should be like, man, we got to get better. Teams will come back on us. If you do that, you're going to have the right mentality to win games in the tournament. But if the mentality is, hey, look how good we did today, well, it won't be there when we need it. We need to look at this game and go, man, we're really talented. Get better. We've got to clean up. Absolutely. The press, we've got to be able to break the press. You know, you got to be able to handle the pressure. But for the most part, I was very happy. I wasn't real happy in the first half because Cal just does not want to play Edwards at the 4. Whatever.
It's our best lineup. It's our best lineup right now, without question. I don't think there's
Right.
any question that's
and
the best
they
lineup.
used it more in the second half. So anyway, you guys have a good day, and we're ready. I hope. I hope if the coaching's right, we're ready because we've definitely got the talent to win it all.
So that 96 team, so it sounds like Steve and I are about the same age. Steve's maybe a hair older than I am because I turned 20 in 96. I was 19 when that 95-96 team won. My birthday's in December. 6 players on that team were named at some point were named a Parade All-American. 4 players on that team were McDonald's All-Americans. 6 players were named Mr. Basketball in their state. 7 players were drafted by NBA teams, and 9 players on that 95-96 team played in the NBA. I don't think we have a single player on this team that's better than Tony Delk. So, I
would argue that Tony Delk wasn't even the best player on that team.
Yeah, I mean, you could go with Mercer.
Because I would go Antoine Walker.
And Antoine Walker. Man,
Agent number 8, he makes baskets.
I can't do it, man. I can't give this team better, more talent than that 95-96
No,
team.
Look, ESPN did a thing back in the day of the most talented basketball teams in college basketball history. That team was number 2 on the list. The only team that was above it was the UCLA team that I think had
it probably
had Kareem and had I want to say Bill Walton, but I don't think they were together.
No, they weren't together. It was like Walt Hazard or something like that. So I'd have to
yeah. So I mean, this team's got amazing talent, but at the same time, does this team have more talent than the 2014-15 team? You know, I'm not putting any team over that 96 team. The 96 team had a game where they made more dunks than Morehead State made baskets.
They were unbelievable. And so, and I respect Steve's comment because it's not some young buck who, didn't know that basketball existed before Tubby Smith. So, he's got some experience.
Yeah, I'm not poo-pooing his thought. I'm just, that team for me, there are tiers in college basketball history. That team is the top. That team's the Pappy. That team is the top shelf. You're paying high dollar for a single shot. That shelf below is pretty damn good, but it ain't on that. It ain't on that level.
Man, we saw some. That was like, you're coming from the UNLV teams to the Grant Hill Duke teams, and I mean, you had some teams. Nolan Richardson's Arkansas teams back then. They were some teams back there, man.
Ron Mercer was a high school player of the year. He averaged 12 minutes a game.
Yep.
And scored 20 points and scored 20 points in the national championship.
Delk has put up a 70 spot in the NBA, right? Didn't he do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and Nazi Muhammad, I think, is still playing.
To be fair, Nazi was one of those 9 guys that really, he was not a factor on that team, but he did make it in the NBA. So,
it was 2 years later when he showed up.
All right.
Actually, the following year, but then he misses 6 free throws, and we're not going to talk about that.
502-267-9680 is the phone line. Again, the UPS Jobs text line 502-437-9680. We're going to go back to the phone lines. We got Gary on the phone.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Oh man, just enjoying a win over Tennessee. Like, there's
Hey, is there anything? Well, yeah, there's not much better than to bust Tennessee's hind end on our home floor on Senior Day. I love it, man.
It really is about as good as it
It's
gets.
a great weekend. But anyway, what I want to say is that the defense today, man. Listen, if that team would play defense like that every game and with the intensity and I told you all last time I called in, this team for some reason is more focused on the road and they play better. They play harder on the road than they do at home. I don't know why, but they do. I don't know if it's the pressure or whatever at home, with the fans and the family. No, I don't know. But they do play better on the road. Beat Auburn on the road. They beat Tennessee on the road. But, guys, I'll tell you, man, 15 threes. And the first half, I'm sitting there talking to my friend that's watching the game with me. And I'm saying, man, we got to get Reed Sheppard going. He's got to get going. And then he turns around and just has an absolute great second half. But I do think, and I will say this, though, guys, we've got some great offensive players. But I don't think there's a better offensive player in the country than that kid from Tennessee. That kid is something. He's unbelievable with the shots he makes, man. He is. But here's what the problem is for Tennessee. And I've talked about this before with people. You're depending too much on one guy, and that's exactly what happened today. Ziegler finally started playing a little bit there in the second half, but you know, they were so dependent on him, and he was a one-man show for a long time. And you know, you gotta have more than that. But anyway, I thought it was a great game for Kentucky, and to win that game, that's a big win, and that helps their seeding. That I think that solidifies a fourth seed for sure in the NCAA. And of course, and I think if they do go in the SEC tournament, they can get to the 3 seed. So who knows? But we'll see. But I will say this: I'm a happy boy tonight, guys.
Thanks for calling, Gary. I agree, man. Reach Shepherd, 22 points in just the second half. He only missed 1 3. He was 6 for 7 from 3-point line. Going back to Zach's comment about, you have all the confidence in the world when Reach shoots it's going to happen. He had a couple mistakes on the turnover side, and again, I go back to his basketball IQ so high. I think anytime he has those turnovers, we get just surprised by him. But overall, 22 points in 19 minutes of play, just getting it done. Really is that person that Kentucky can rely on. And I want to go back to something Gary said about connect, because I do think that happens a lot of times when you got a guy who's just going off. Number one, I think his teammates kind of get caught watching him, and they're just like, they become spectators and just like enjoying what the guy's doing. But Tennessee did a terrible job of getting him touches late in the game. I know they were making their run back, but in those last 3 possessions, I'm trying to think if he even touched the basketball.
Well, I think he was exhausted. That last 3 that he took with about a minute left, where he just like 20 seconds on the shot clock, and they were questioning whether or not it was a good shot. Like he didn't look like he had the legs, and it barely drew front iron. I think he was exhausted. You have to remember he got banged up a couple times in that game where he went down pretty hard, and I think he just ran out of gas. His I'll be very curious to see what his usage rate was for that game, but I'm assuming second half it was over 50%. And I think Kentucky at that point had gotten to where they were trying to force the ball out of his hands. One time it led to a wide open 3 for Ziegler. And look, give Kentucky's defense credit, but we also have to acknowledge the fact that Tennessee missed a lot of wide open 3-pointers in this game. Kentucky got very fortunate that they missed some of those shots, especially with how the final minute went down. But I think he was just done. And I think Rick Barnes was realizing the fact that Kentucky was trying to force someone else to beat them. And so those other guys were stepping up, because Ziegler, who won me quite a bit of money this afternoon, I think going into like the last 4 minutes, he only had 9 points, and he had 7 there down the stretch. Somebody else had to step up to help him. When a guy scores 40 points and you don't win the game, you're not putting any of that on him. You're not. The defense did their job down the stretch to try to keep the ball away from him. And again, it goes back to the fact of, if we don't pee down our leg in the final minute, we win this by double digits. So I don't know, you go back to the first game, Cal didn't do any kind of special defense for him, and he didn't have a great night. I think he was 5 of 13 from the floor in that game. He only had 16 points, but Vescovi hurt us. James hurt us. Ziegler hurt us. Tonight, it was almost like we were daring, especially in the first half, and we were double teaming every time he was on pick and roll. We were daring someone else to beat us, and they didn't in the first half. And it wasn't until he took over. You got to remember, it was 25-18 with like 5 minutes to go in the first half?
31-20 with about 3 minutes to go in the first half.
Yeah, so I mean, they were struggling for offense, and then he started taking over. He is one of the top 10 players in college basketball offensively, and it didn't matter what we did at times, we couldn't stop him. Now, it doesn't help when right before halftime we watch him start dribbling 30 feet out, and Reed Shepherd just olays, and then Ugana olays, and we let him go right to the rim for a layup, which thankfully he missed, but then they dunked it home. But it's like stuff like that, when a guy's playing the way he is, you can't let him just get a free run to the basket. And again, those are things that we've got to clean up before we get into the tournament.
I think you're being disrespectful by saying he's top 10. I think he's top 2. I don't even try to think who else I'd put up there with him. So he's probably the best offensive player in college basketball right now. So
Well, I was being top 10 because I didn't want to,
Somebody
say top 5 and then somebody coming, how dare you?
I think top 5
I played it safe.
Yeah, I think top 5 safe. Yeah.
All right.
But I think at the same time, adjusting the defense. Yes, I think our bounce and our feet were a lot more active tonight, and we were not having to like just be flat-footed and watch where the ball goes and turn around and that slow reacting. However, our first rotations were better tonight. Our hands were a little bit more active and better tonight. There's that second and third rotation, that weak side rotation is still really suspect, and Tennessee was able to take control of that a little bit. And you're right, Ence. I mean, there were some times when they got some good looks. I would say that the one thing that just made me feel better, though, and again, we've talked about this, I think, ad nauseum, the first half was played way more in Tennessee style, right? Where it was physical and whatever else, and then the refs called a bunch of fouls and on Kentucky in general, which I'm actually really grateful for, because I think that foul calls opened up the game for the Cats and allowed us to push that tempo a little bit more. So even though when Kentucky had the double-digit lead, like with like 8 minutes left to go in the second half, Tennessee was shooting the ball 50% in the second half at that point. So, but it also allowed us to get the tempo. So I'm in some ways that tempo is probably maybe even more important, especially knowing that we're always, I mean, the limitations of defense are going to be there no matter what. But if Kentucky can force the tempo, I think this is the second time we've seen that, where the first half maybe not was Kentucky's tempo, and then they got their tempo in the second half when they were able to get the W. So, man, I love it. And by the way, Zach corrected me. Coaches can call timeouts right now, but I've told you that rule has changed. I think in the NBA, though, I think it does have to be players. All right. So, oh, shit. Are we back on? Okay. Well, I don't even know how long I rambled before I just realized that we were off. So, Zach, did you hold on the fort while we were off air? All right. I got to add the stream back to the Facebook page here. So give me a second. What were you talking about, Zach?
Basically just talking about how they forced other people other than Connect to beat them in the first half, and they didn't do that. And he had his 40, and it was odd how it was just kind of a stark contrast to the first game where Connect had 15 points and really wasn't a big factor, and Tennessee won going away. And in this game, he scores 40 and he goes off, and he's a top 5 player in America. I'll say he's a top 5 player in America, and they're still able to win the game anyway. So I thought that was impressive work, but I mean, it's, we could safely say Dalton Connect's top 5, I think.
And I think Mike was talking about the fact that the first half was played at Tennessee's pace, which is usually one that we struggle at.
Okay, so you all did hear that. Good.
We were winning. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when we got the tempo, Kentucky won. Even though Tennessee was shooting the ball 50% in the second half, Kentucky got their tempo, and they were able to maximize their possessions, and they got to play the way they wanted to, and they got the double-digit lead. So, we got anybody else on the phone lines right now, Zach?
Nope. Free phone lines are open. Calling people.
267-9680. They're open. Let's go to that text line then. Let's get a couple of those texts while we're getting that pulled up. While Ence is pulling that up, we've got a couple things on the Facebook page. Not a ton today. We're gonna way to go, Big Blue from Miles' voice. Thanks, Miles. Josh saying the one miss by Reed was wide open in the corner, but they played their tails off. I'll edit that for the crowd. Reed 6 or 7 for 3 and the steal and pull up 3. That was his dad's move. I wonder what Jeff would say about the talent on this team versus the talent in 95, 96. And then for Kentucky, we're getting Marcus saying for Kentucky to be successful, it has to be matchups, but Kentucky has talent. But I've been saying Reed Sheppard is the best player on the team, and this team goes as far as Reed Sheppard goes. But I would say Marcus has, by the way, been a very knowledgeable fan on the thread for a while. But I would actually have to say that I would have agreed that the matchup things would have been paramount until they get the W today, because Tennessee's not a good matchup for Kentucky because of how, number one, they've got some older dudes and some older dudes with some good experience. They're physical. They've got enough of an inside presence generally speaking, and then you got some dynamic guards that can kill you. That's been kind of the recipe, Ence, of who beats Kentucky. You know, this is not an Alabama team who's not as physical that, you know, Kentucky can just run out of the gym. I think Kentucky's starting to show that they can, like I said, and especially since they won some different ways now, I'm actually a little more optimistic, I guess, about them being able to play where it's not as matchup dependent.
And
They're
this is an
sucking you
elite.
back in, aren't they?
They're sucking me in. Go ahead,
I
Ence.
didn't step on that. No, I mean, this is an elite Tennessee defense in terms of the metrics. This is a very physical defense, and they were not going to let us get easy baskets, especially in that first half. And even, you know, in the second half, we got shots that, again, you go back to the Reed three-pointer with less than a second left on the shot clock. You had to fight for 30 seconds to get that look. This is a team that gets really physical with you. They defend for 40 minutes. You saw what they did during the final minute with that full court press. And by the way, Texter taking me to task, I absolutely knew Ence was going to highlight the bad from this game. Absolutely pathetic. Do you want me to say everything's great? We're going to win the national championship when we couldn't get the ball across half court in the final minute? I can be happy about the win and be excited about the win and say I think this team is back on a track to go to the Final Four, and still acknowledge the fact that we've got things to work on, because guess what? Almost every team in the country does. This is going to be a tournament where you play the way you did in that final minute, you may not win a game. So yes, I'm going to highlight the negative because it's something that needs to be fixed. And the good news is we've got potentially 3 games coming up this week where it's going to be a tournament environment where we're going to get a chance to work on it. We're going to get a chance to learn from it and improve on those mistakes, because I've also pointed out the numerous things that we've done really well. And for another point, we rebounded extremely well today, because if you look at the stats, Justin Edwards, 6 rebounds. Adu Thiero, 6 rebounds. Antonio Reeves, 7 rebounds. Onyenso, 6 rebounds. Reed Shepherd, 6 rebounds. They were fighting for 50-50 balls. They were attacking the glass as a unit, as a team, not looking at one guy or 2 guys to go clean up the mess. They were being extremely aggressive. They were going as a team to make sure that they tried to limit Tennessee to just one possession. And Tennessee had 15 offensive rebounds, but they only got 11 points from them. Kentucky had 31 defensive rebounds. Usually it's closer to a 50-50 split with this team. So yes, there are a lot of positives to take away from this game, and I am absolutely excited with the fact that we beat those orange-clad garbage truck workers on their own floor. We shut them up. We got to win on their – look, there are a few things more enjoyable than going into a team's gym and beating them on their senior day, especially when it's Tennessee. So yes, I am very excited, but I'm also not going to sit here and ignore the fact that we couldn't get the ball across half court.
You can't.
Because it's going to be what we face in close games, and it already cost us a game this year. Let's not forget that.
It almost cost us another game. I mean, I mean, it's been an issue, and the late game. I'm just going to go with late game situations in general. I mean, I feel like we've brought up late game situations and practices and all that stuff. It's been an issue the whole time through. Anything else interesting on the text line? Yeah, go ahead.
A couple more texts. Our guy BB on Blue Mist said, sorry, 96, 12, and 15 were all more talented than this team, but this team can win a title. Texter called Reed Shepherd a cold-ass white boy. Texter says, great win for the Cats. We need to get Mitchell back in his groove. We need him in the tournament.
I disagree with that, by the way. I don't think they do. I mean, I'm going back to, like, this team has played the best where they can beat anyone with Edwards at the 4, and they need to be able to make sure that they can have the 3 of the 4 between DJ, Reeves, Reed, and Dillingham on the floor. I'm actually a little worried that they need to get Dillingham maybe a little bit more re-engaged right now. You know,
Well, when you keep getting fouls and you can only play 17, I mean, this is 2 games in a row where foul troubles kept him out of the game.
And this is why he can't start, by the way. This is why he can't start. How many
3-point shooters are you going to foul? How many 3-point shooters? And it's not even that he's fouling them. How many times has he fouled one this year and they've still made it?
So if we're going to shorten the bench, I like Edwards and Thiero playing that 4 spot, just switching back and forth and you know, going with what we need at the time. And then you got the 3-headed monster that you can put, you know, have a 7-footer in there at some point today, at some point in the game with Big Z and Onyenso and Bradshaw. we haven't talked about Bradshaw. Bradshaw basically was, 2 minutes a day. That was it.
You want to hear a really fun stat?
Hmm.
Do you know how many points we got from our 3 7-footers today?
Oh, that would be a goose egg.
That would be a goose egg.
Yeah.
Do you know how many shots they took?
They took one shot and Bradshaw took it in his 2 minutes. Wow.
We beat Tennessee and we literally got 0 points from our bigs.
And
Again,
by the way,
Tennessee was not letting us even get looks inside. That's, somebody pointed out the fact that we won that game hitting 15 threes and hitting 12 two-pointers. Well, that's why. We took what they gave us and we did a really good job with it.
we actually even only got, Z played 8 minutes, did not have a rebound in 8 minutes.
No, but he had a huge block.
He did have one huge block. That is true. So that I'm at to the point right now where I really don't think they need Mitchell.
I think you flip-flopped. I think earlier in the season, Justin Edwards was giving you absolutely nothing and
Mitchell
didn't seem to have any confidence.
Yep.
And Mitchell was playing extremely well. I think those two have flip-flopped now. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think you just have to recognize it for what it is. You have to appreciate what Trey gave you to bridge that gap and to win you flat out win you some games a couple times earlier this season. But you also have to acknowledge the fact that Justin Edwards has passed him up. Justin Edwards has become one of the more important players on this team because he's a guy that can go inside and hit a three. He is playing extremely confidently. You have to play him. And I think the more minutes you can get him, the better. I mean, he played 37 minutes tonight.
And
there was a point a month and a half ago we were talking about, should he play at all?
His ceiling's so much higher than Mitchell's. I mean, and so if you got to choose between a good Justin Edwards and a good Trey Mitchell, I'm taking a good Justin Edwards. And
by the way, Texter clarified he was talking about Dalton Connect as the cold ass white boy.
Well, you know what? I think both of them apply. And by the way, I love the Connect story. Besides the fact that he had to go to Tennessee, just goes to show, if you're a dream, you got a dream, and you maybe are not really recruited coming out of high school or whatever else. Going to junior college for a couple of years, getting the D1, the low D1 off chance, and was it Northern Arizona? Where did he play? Northern Colorado or Northern Arizona or wherever he played. And then gets a shot through the transfer portal. Dalton Connect is everything that's good with the transfer portal. He
played at Northern Colorado and then Northeastern Junior College.
Yeah. So you got to love the fact that the guy just never gave up on his dream, constantly improving. He grew a ton. He got stronger. I mean, that's a big dude. He's a wide, strong guard, right? And he's put himself in a position, and it's hard. It is hard as a guard to get drafted after playing 4 or 5 years of college basketball. And he's putting himself in a position where he looks like he's just the quintessential going to have a really decent career because of his physicality and his shooting ability and his range. So we're getting Wes saying Mitchell gives us a body blow or foul trouble. Usually we're not in that big of foul trouble, and our foul trouble right now is with our guards, not with our bigs. And again, the TV timeouts get so long in the NCAA tournament, you can play 7 and be effective. And the reverse is true. If you're playing too many guys in the NCAA tournament and you got some guy that's sitting on the bench a whole lot longer than he should be and he gets cold, it's really tough. You got to do almost work to keep the guys that you need fresh and active. You got to work to keep them active just because those timeouts are so long.
Zach, we still got callers.
Yep, we got Travis and Brian.
All right, Travis. Let's go to Travis in. Good call on that one.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Hey, man, it's your show. We're here. What do you got for us?
Oh, it ain't that.
No.
And so I think what happens is when you lead with negative, people only hear the negative. So that would be one thing I would say. But what I would say is I agree 100% that at this point in time, this team is better without Trey Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also said that this team is better without Aaron Bradshaw. So, it's kind of a catch-22. At the end of the day, they're peaking at the right time. Don't know why they went away from Piero Garden Connect this game because they did that last game and really held it down. But, at the end of the day, DJ Wagner's playing better. He didn't play against them the last time. I'll be honest with you. The better team showed at, pretty much full strength in this game.
I'll tell you, your point on Thiero is interesting because I have a feeling that he picked up his third foul late or early in the second half, and I'm guessing that's probably when they decided to take him off Connect. And I think when Cal does something like that, he has a hard time going back the other way. And so I think that's a legit possibility of what happened on that one. Yeah, man, we were going back and forth, and I think about this time last month, Ence, we were just saying, is this team better than the way they were in December? That was the conversation. You got to say at this point now that this team's better than what we were a month ago.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I think it goes to Justin Edwards. I think that's, you ask yourself what's changed in that time frame. I think him giving you that additional weapon, especially offensively, because look, I love Adu Thiero, but Adu can get to the rim, but teams aren't really respecting him shooting the three. And it's not something that I want him taking a bunch of them because I don't, we talk about Reed, when he fires one up, you expect it's going in. I don't get that feeling with Adu. With Justin, he, 4 of 7 tonight, 4 of 7 from downtown. And that gives you a whole other weapon, especially when he's playing at the 4. And that was the difference earlier in the season. We talk about Trey. It wasn't necessarily any of the things he did defensively. It was the fact that he gave you 4 shooters on the floor.
Actually,
5
he gave
if
us
you
5.
have Z out there.
Well,
yeah, 5 if you have Z out there that could shoot the ball
when Trey played early, he was the 5. I mean, he started off.
True.
I mean, he was the 5, and we were talking about how he opens up, and really, the difference to me and Trey Mitchell then was not only how well he shot the ball because he kept teams honest, right? He kept lanes open for our other players, but he was such a good passer.
But it also killed us on the glass having him at the 5.
It absolutely
so
did.
That we're never going back to that. But when Adu's playing the 4, you don't have that weapon. And when Trey's playing the 4 right now, the way he's shooting, you don't have that weapon. Justin stretches the floor and makes it more of a modern look, and it makes it tough for teams to clog the middle. And when that happens, you allow Reeves to get to the rim the way he did today. It allows Rob to go one-on-one and get into the lane. It allows Reed to go one-on-one and get into the lane, and it makes things easier for this team because there's no longer – what do you do? When you have Justin playing the way he is at the 4, what do you take away offensively? Do you run guys off the three-point line? Okay, we've got 4 guys that can attack the rim off the dribble, which is not something we've had in the past. We've had in the past, especially the last 2 years, you get down to the 3 and the 4 position, you've got guys that you're like, please don't put the ball on the floor. You don't have that with any of these 4, with whoever's rotating in there with the guards.
Unless it's the last minute of play.
Yeah. Do you limit the ability to get into the lane like Tennessee did today? Okay, well, we're going to shoot from downtown, and we're probably going to shoot at a 48% or better clip because you can't take away one guy. You want to take away Reed? Okay, you've got Rob who can hit threes. You've got Antonio Reeves who can hit threes. You've got Justin who can hit threes. DJ went 0 for 4 tonight, so that 3-point stretch he had might have been an anomaly, which, by the way, we didn't even talk about that. 5 fouls in 13 minutes for DJ. Like, just we got to have these guys on the floor.
Yeah.
But you could see when he was out there, you go back and look at that first game. It's important to remember that first game we didn't have him defensively, and Ziegler went off. Ziegler was a lot more quiet today when DJ was guarding him, both in terms of his passing, his distribution, and his shooting. But by having Justin playing the way he is and having the 4-out offense, it's what we've wanted so long, Cal, to get away from these 2 bigs. It opens up the floor, and it just makes us so much more difficult to defend, especially when we can get out and run.
I also appreciate Travis giving you some communication advice. I
didn't lead with negativity.
I've got to own it. Actually, I think I have to own that because at the end of the day, I think I led with Cats get the big win or whatever, the positivity side of it. But then I went into the negative thing, and I went negative and threw it to you. So I need to throw it to you on a more of a positive note. And Travis is just out there making us better. So I appreciate that, Travis. So Brian, let's go to Brian on the phone lines. Brian, are you there? Brian going once? Okay, let's not go to Brian then. Brian, call back and let us know what you got. All right, let's do the player of the game tonight. Who you got? Who you got for the player of the game?
I mean, it's got to be Reed. I mean, just absolutely unconscious from downtown. 7 of 10 from beyond the arc. 5 assists, 6 rebounds, a block, and it was a big block. A steal, 33 minutes. I mean, he put this team on his back at times. I know Reeves had a great game, but you add in the assists and just hitting 7 3-pointers. I know there's been talk of him coming back next year. I don't see how he can.
Oh, let's just get the collective right now. Like, as a fan base, how much money can we throw at Reed Shepherd to come back for next year? Just for how much fun it would be.
I'm one of these guys where I want to see these players get the money while they can, because there are just so many things that could go wrong.
No, you're right. You're right.
It would be fun. It would be fun as hell. But also, if something happened to him and his career ended because of a freak injury, that's one of those things where I would just feel horrible for him forever.
I'm actually, and I think where it shifted with me too, like he's actually proven to me that he can actually play the point guard spot at the next level.
Oh yeah, especially with his vision, like those 75-foot passes he makes, it's ridiculous.
All right, so we'll go with Reed Shepherd as the player of the game. Zach, you want to put in a vote, or you want to go for Reeves?
I think we might as well start naming this the Reed Shepherd player of the game, because it seems like every game now, especially the big games, it seems to be him. 27 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Like I mentioned, I mean, you make 7 of 10 from 3, and in the second half you miss 1, and he was clearly the guy that was orchestrating everything. Now, Reeves had a great game, and in the first half it might have been him, but it was Reed's second half, and they were able to pull away. And even with the last minute notwithstanding, they were still able to hold on, win that game. It's Reed Shepherd. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
And I also don't I don't want to have this conversation and just gloss over the game that Justin Edwards had, who's a very respectable third place. His third place performance in the player of the game tonight would win some games for sure, with his 16 points and 6 rebounds, and 3 assists for him too. Thank you for showing up for Kentucky basketball fans, and I'm glad that you never gave up on us and we never gave up on you. And
we almost did.
We almost
on the
did.
Post-game show.
We almost did. I don't think I ever fully got there. So, we're getting in. Obviously, Reed's parents will influence his coming back. So we're getting that on the Facebook page. But yeah, Reed's just turned it on. His last 4 weeks have been absolutely phenomenal, and it's been a ton of fun to watch from that standpoint too. Where would you go? I've got to be a little careful here. I'm running low on my battery, so we're gonna start running the kind of wrapping things up here. I don't have a port open to plug it in. What do you think about a grade overall for the regular season? Where are you at on this sense?
I would say a B+. I think winning. I think it would have needed to win the SEC tournament in order to be a full A. And I still think there are some losses that we can't overlook that were kind of bad, especially with the loss in the non-con to a non-Power 5 school. It's just hard to ignore that one. But I will say that if you'd asked me this a month ago, it probably would have been a B-, maybe a C+, because of how badly we were failing at expectations. The way they finished it out, they've gotten to a solid B+. Now, if you can go and win the SEC tournament, it changes that to a full A. But at this point, again, we know what this team can do. I need a Final Four.
And that's I like your assessment, because I tend to agree with the B+. I think overall, when you look at, if I'm not mistaken, Kentucky was picked 4th in the SEC preseason rankings. So,
well, I mean, South Carolina was picked to finish last. So
right, and A&M and Arkansas we're getting B-. We're getting B's. I think most people are kind of in their range, and now you go to the woulda, coulda, shoulda. Like, what happens if they don't lose to Wilmington? What happens if they beat LSU? What happens, if they win some of those games that we know that they probably could have won?
The
And
Florida game really stands out.
Florida game, yeah. But
All you got to do is foul that one.
Yeah, it's true.
and then
But I
you
mean, at
win
the end of the day, I think that loss looks a lot better. And, now the full body of work has come out.
Yes. The
So,
LSU one is probably the bad one because if you win that, that's 8 in a row and you're SEC champs.
and if you end up with 6 losses or 5 losses in the regular season, we're talking probably about a 1 seed with this group, right? I mean, the margin of error was so thin. So I think I got to agree. I think I got to go with the BB plus kind of thing. But man, they finished strong. They were, and they got a chance to really now step up into that postseason play. So I'm excited about that and see how this gives me hope actually that they're going to be able to make that jump into postseason play. The energy they came with today. I'm sure
I need to see a strong SEC. You got to at least get to the final game.
I'm sure
And if winning 3 games in 3 days is tough, I'm never going to sit there and say they have to win the SEC title. You've at least got to get to the final.
I'm actually kind of wanting them to get to the final, maybe lose the final. We'll see, because I want to win the title. And I just don't know if they can go. What, that'd be 14 in a row to end the season. It's kind of tough.
I mean, UConn did it.
UConn did do it.
UConn's done it a couple times. So,
John Calipari, I'm sure, was extremely swaggy on this press conference, and you should definitely check that out. And every single time you go watch a John Calipari press conference, you need to remember our friends at the Kentucky Office of Highway Safety. Whether you walk, pedal, or drive, let's share the road safely. Share the road, Kentucky. Let's see. Let's go ahead and let's hit our UPS Jobs scoreboard. Shift your future at UPS Jobs. Apply today at upsjobs.com. Ence, do you have it up by any chance?
I do not, but if you give me 30 seconds, I can get it.
So the one game that I definitely got to see. Well, you didn't say 15 seconds or 18 seconds or whatever.
By the way, U of L is 3 minutes and 16 seconds away from a third year of Kenny Payne.
Are they winning?
Of course not.
Okay, I didn't think so.
The CW announcers did say at the beginning of the game, this is the final home game of the Kenny Payne era.
Not if I got anything to do with it.
How much money?
I'm going to donate to the 502 collection.
You got to donate half your money to keep.
If it'll get Kenny Payne back.
Would you rather have Reed back or Payne back if you could only pick one?
Oh, Payne. I mean, come on. We can win without Reed. Top 25 scoreboard. Games in progress right now. Well, actually, we'll hold off on those for what to watch for. Games that finished earlier today. Number 16, Alabama, 92-88 winners over Arkansas in overtime.
Did you watch that at all?
No, I've been getting stuff done today. Kansas State, 65-58 winners. Upset win over number 6, Iowa State.
There's another
number 10
2C that takes an L, and they're not going to win the Big 12. So there you go. It might be a 2-spot opening up.
Creighton was up by 20, I think, on Villanova at one point in the first half, and hit a fadeaway jumper with 0.2 of a second left to hold off Villanova 69-67. Number 17, South Carolina in overtime beat Mississippi State 93-89. Tulsa upsets number 24, South Florida 76-70. Number 14, Kansas loses, and they'll probably move up to 10th in the polls this week. They lost at Houston by 30, 76-46. And number 8, Marquette held on to beat Xavier 86-80.
I'll tell you what, Houston moving to the Big 12 and just absolutely stating their dominance has been really, really, really impressive. Really impressive. And just, I mean, that Big 12 basically was the Kansas Invitational. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then did you get Marquette beating Xavier 86-80 on the road?
And then that's the games that have been completed. But there's still some games later on.
Yeah, we have the What to Watch presented by Cox's and Evergreen Liquors, your go-to liquor store. And the games that are in progress right now. Number 11 Baylor is I don't know if they did a senior night for Coach Drew or what it was, because he's definitely going to Louisville, is trailing by 16, now 14. They just updated the score. They're trailing 47-33. They're playing in Lubbock against Texas Tech. Carolina and Duke is halftime right now. I'm surprised that the whole country's not watching this because it's so special. And it's just such an unbelievable rivalry. Two subpar basketball programs are going at it, and they're playing in Carolina's winning in Cameron 40-31. I think Duke is not very good at all. So,
oh, you mean college basketball's biggest rivalry that they play 4 times a year?
right. And by the way, if Duke is Duke in no way, shape, or form, I know that they've got their 24-6 and but they should in no way, shape, or form could you look at us and them and think that Duke's better than us, and you can see them higher. No. Okay.
Get that through to Louis. He was all over Duke.
But that won't.
They're garbage.
But that won't matter because we know how that goes. Duke will end up with a number 1 seed when it's all said and done. They could lose 10 games and they'll get a 1 seed.
We need Auburn to win.
They'll be playing in Greensboro.
We need Auburn to win so the Cats get that 2 seed, and they're taking care of business. They're hosting Georgia. They're up 45-31. So again, Auburn wins. Kentucky's a 2 seed. Georgia comes back and wins. South Carolina is then the 2 seed.
Again, I still couldn't get clarification on that. I saw things that said we were number 2 no matter what. So, I guess we'll find out in about an hour.
Now, similar to that Villanova game, and one of the reasons why I think Villanova came back so strong, so they were fighting for their tournament life. But another Big East team that's fighting for their tournament life and will tip in about 30 minutes. Providence is hosting UConn. And in Providence, especially now with Villanova losing, Providence win against UConn would do just wonders for they would probably put them for sure in the tournament, I would think. Then you've also got at 5:30. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong time zone. 8:30. New Mexico, the Fighting Richard Pitino's, could be U of L's consolation prize. We'll see. Is going to play the 22nd ranked Utah State. What is Utah? Are they the Aggies? They're the Aggies, right? I think they're the Aggies.
Yeah, Utah State.
They are.
Aggies,
yeah. Oklahoma State goes to number 20 BYU. See if Mark Pope can continue his magic season. And then Arizona, 5th ranked Arizona Wildcats, who was just gifted for sure the 4th number 1 seed today, will go on the road to take on the Fighting LeBronny Jameses in USC Trojans. So, and USC's last ever regular season Pac-10 game, or Pac-12 or whatever it's called now. That's what we got. Anything else that you want to get to on the text line?
No.
All right.
Everything's pretty much been said.
So, now the season goes to the postseason, and we'll be here.
Live from the liquor.
We're going to play it out. Okay. Well, we'll be here for all the SEC tournament games. Zach was kind of quick on the trigger. He's ready to get out of here. He's ready to go home. And then we might be doing something special on Selection Sunday, so stay tuned for that, and we'll announce something, and we'll go from there. So, Cats get the big W on the road, go into SEC tournament play hot as they could possibly be. Let's get another title. Go Cats.